Parenting a child with autism takes endurance, courage, resilience, and will test your faith. Today, we're speaking to Jonti Mayer, personal life coach and author of a book called Conscious Manifestation.
I'm truly honored to be here. You are one of the most inspirational people that I know. So it really is an honor for me to be joining you here. Thank you.
I'm going to jump into my first question. Our children with autism are very worried. They're constantly living in fear. Fear about their child's future. Will he speak? Will he go to school? Will he lead a normal life? I know that I used to live in constant fear when my son David was diagnosed with autism. How do we conquer fear?
Sure. Okay, so look, fear is something that every single human being experiences. So the first thing to know is to put fear into a context, right? Everybody experiences fear in the areas of their lives that are most dear to them. So the first thing is not to be too worried about the fear itself. But obviously, fear does limit our experience of love, and it limits our experience of joy. And ultimately, it limits our ability to give love to our children. So there are a few ways in which, a parent of an autistic child can manage their fear better. So one of the tools that I give my clients is to try and imagine worst case scenario. Now, I know that in this situation, it's obviously it may not be a very happy picture, right? And I truly get that. But from my perspective, what is required for us to be the very best that we can be and for us to live our very, very best life is to confront that which we are scared of, right? At the end of the day, we become more powerful through positive confrontation. Life is living you. You are not living life. And ultimately, you're not in control. So in order to get a little bit more control over our lives, over our situation, we have to look the fear monster in the face. We have to confront it to come to terms with the worst case scenario. Very often, as a result of that, we will release the fear itself and we will be able to engage with our situation in a far more powerful and in a far more effective, productive, and creative way.
Parents of children with autism often feel broken. They get told to be courageous. How do they actually translate this into reality? How can you be courageous when your heart is breaking?
Give yourself time and permission to be fully heartbroken. Right? The truth of the matter is that on some level, it is heartbreaking. That's the reality of it. There is no pretending that it's not. Every parent, every human being who has a child wants to have the happiest, healthiest, most normal child. Everybody, any parent would want that, and any parent would pray for that, right? So number one, from a purely practical point of view, give yourself permission to be as heartbroken as possible for as long as you need, okay? Preferably, you could put a time limit onto that because otherwise you can just be heartbroken for the rest of your life. So I would encourage a person to give themselves, I don't know, you would be in a better position to answer how long that period of heartbreak requires, okay? But then at some point, and you are a master at this, Ilana, and you really should be speaking about this from the rooftops, which I know that on some level you are. But the key here is to at some point choose courage. Every person and every parent can choose courage. Every person can choose strength. And this is an amazing thing that the mind can do. Truly is an amazing thing. And it may be hard, and it may be, and you probably won't feel like it. But at the end of the day, one of the things that we have to do is we have to choose strength. People are told to, they get told to just be courageous. And you asked, how do we translate this into reality? The third thing is that, yes, as with all tragedies and massive mega disappointments in life, at some point we also have to find faith, and every person needs to find their own faith, their own sense of spirituality, their own sense of purpose that will enable them to get through this. And finally, and this is a very, very subtle point, and that is as follows. There's a strange phenomenon that no matter what a person is going through, they can always feel into the underlying okayness in themselves and in the world. It's a very strange thing. There's a part of you, there's a part of me, there's a part of every human being that is always okay, right? But we don't always focus on that. We're not always aware of that because we're caught up in the pain, in the drama, in the situation. But underneath the pain, drama, and situation, there's a part of you right here, right now that is just okay. Like there's this underlying sense of okayness available to us to tap into at all times.
When David was diagnosed with autism, the time period I allowed myself to mourn was too long. I mourned for 3 years. 3.
Wow.
I remember it being 3 years. I couldn't buy new clothes. I used to wear very flat shoes. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I remember I used to wear rags. And one day someone came over for supper and they said, Ilana, you look too terrible. What's wrong with you? Martin, buy your wife a pair of shoes. And when he left that evening and I looked in the mirror, I realized that it was the first time I was looking in the mirror for about a year. And I realized that I was dressed in rags. And I love how you say time period on it. So I definitely, and I mourned for too long because no one guided me. That's why I'm so happy that parents have the opportunity to listen to you today. I didn't have a Jonty in my life, and I didn't have the information that I needed to fight autism and to pave a better future for my child. Today, there's a tremendous amount of treatments we can apply to help the child with autism lead a better life. And then I love that book, The Choice. It's an incredible book, and I absolutely agree. And I think people need to remember this advice from you. You have the ability to choose. And that's a very, very important point. Okay, so some parents have been on the journey for many, many years. They're tired, they're worn down, their expectations have been disappointed time and time again. How do they keep going? And how do they stay motivated in the midst of this hardship?
One of the biggest problems facing people today is that they do not have time for themselves. And I have no doubt that as a parent and as a parent of a special needs child, you're going to have less time. Advice to you would be make time for yourself every single morning, even if it means getting up early. Some people will prefer to do it very late at night, and that's cool, but other people need to do it early in the morning. I'm personally a fan of an early morning, and that may be 5 o'clock in the morning. For some people, it may even go as early as 4:30 in the morning. But it is impossible to stay motivated during this kind of hardship if you are not filling your own tank. And every single person, especially a parent of a special needs child, has to fill their tank every single day so that they can give more to their child. Get as much support as you need. The only way to keep going is with support. Every person needs support. So you need to fill your tank and you need to get support. I always tell my clients, there is no prize for doing it alone. So many people attempt a journey alone. It just makes no sense. Why would you need or even want to reinvent the wheel, right? Reach out, get help. Get help from a therapist, get help from a friend, get help from Ilana. Get the help that you need to make the most of this journey in the most motivated and even inspired way. When I came to your school, Ilana, I was blown away. I was inspired. Okay? And at the end of the day, we all need to make inspiration a priority. We all need to make our own energy a priority. And ultimately, we have to open up to receive the support from other people.
Beautiful. I will say that I myself struggle to make time for myself. So I'm listening to you. And I agree with you. Don't attempt this journey on your own. I find it very difficult to accept help in my life. And I've learned to accept that help in my life because you can't walk this autism road on your own without the support. And I always tell parents that treating a child with autism is not a sprint, it's a marathon. If your tank is empty, you really can't help your child, you can't help the siblings, your marriage is going to break down, and when you're going through hardship, you really need to even fuel that tank even more.
You have to change your mind, right? Your mindset has changed. You thought you were walking along the beach, now you're running a marathon. It's two different lives, two different worlds, certainly at the beginning. And until you can change your mind to understand that you need support, and you better be able to ask for that support freely, you're going to suffer. I always tell my clients, you can have an easy life and you can have a hard life. But the one thing that makes an easy life is asking for help. And one thing that makes a hard life is trying to do it all alone.
I know I've asked myself this question. Martin has asked himself this question. And I know parents of children with autism ask themselves this question. Why me? Why my child?
What I'm going to say would be considered by some to be controversial, but you're speaking to me, so here goes. Okay, so on the first level, nobody knows, right? There is literally no answer to that question. There's no answer to why you, and there's no answer to why your child. Nobody knows this. Nobody knows the answers to why do, bad things happen to good people, and why do the seemingly wicked prosper. Okay, this obviously is the ancient philosophical questions, and on some level, humankind, while they are on earth, will always struggle with this. If a person enters into a spiritual paradigm, and some of your listeners may be spiritual, some may be religious, some may not have any particular beliefs around this, but once a person does enter into this paradigm and they begin to do a little bit of research in the great spiritual traditions of the world, they will find that, ultimately, there's a concept of karma. Okay, so now what exactly is karma? So karma is the belief or the understanding that we all come into this world with a certain purpose. We all come into this world with certain challenges. We all come into the certain world with certain predispositions to different experiences. Now, so personally, I do not believe in a random universe. Personally, I believe that a being of higher supreme intelligence is running this reality of ours, and therefore, on some level, whatever we're going through in life and whatever we are experiencing in life is preordained for our highest evolution. Now, like I said, not everybody is going to subscribe to that, but I do know that when a person does adopt a spiritual belief system in their life, they are far more equipped to deal with suffering and far more able to live a more purposeful and a more joyful existence. So obviously, I'm not here to convince anybody to believe in anything at all, but in my 20 years of coaching, I have noticed that people who do have a spiritual perspective on things tend to live a more joyful, a more peaceful, and even a more energized life. So I would invite some of your listeners just to explore their spiritual beliefs. And of course, sometimes this experience is so crushing that it destroys all belief. And I get that as well. But why you and why your child? In the greater scheme of things, on some level, this is your purpose, this is your journey, and you can allow it to bring out the best in you. And we have no doubt seen that in you, Ilana. I mean, the level and the extent of your contribution is not only mind-blowing, but it's incredible what you have done with this challenge that you have been given. And beyond that, we don't actually know why.
Martin used to really ask, why me? When David was diagnosed 16 years ago, he will always tell you, he said, why me? Why my child? He walked around with the why question for a very long time. And then once we established our academy and we started helping other parents, Martin will tell you that the why went away for him because we found our purpose. Helping other children really motivated us and gave us a reason for why we had to perceive David's suffering, if that makes sense. That was really, really a wonderful explanation. Now, raising typically developing children can be challenging, but raising a child with autism is honestly on another level, and parents don't always agree on the treatment options, and it causes a lot of conflict between them. How can parents overcome this conflict?
At the end of the day, the more help you get, the quicker you will move ahead. It's that simple. So if there's conflict between the parents, unless there are high levels of emotional maturity and emotional intelligence, best you go and get help. That's the most useful thing that I can say in this scenario for parents.
I love how we are, the message, this is the message, get help. Because you're continuously saying this, get help. And I myself am enjoying to hear this because I struggled very much with taking help myself.